Hi there, Year 11. Welcome to Lesson 4 of Geographical Skills. We'll be looking at our fieldwork, in particular unexperienced or unfamiliar fieldwork, and how we would approach this. So you'll see three resources: the PDF, the sheets, and you'll see this video, which I'm obviously creating right now. You'll want the PDF open and the sheets open. Now, this essentially is going to run you through how we do field work and remind you about the things from your own field work, but really it's about generic field work. How do we approach it? What are the stages in constructing field work? Normally you'd have had an exam which would have asked questions about this. They wouldn't have asked questions on your field work because of COVID, but they were going to ask you about generic fieldwork skills. So we want to make sure you leave geography having these skills. So there's a first few pages which show you all the skills related to fieldwork. Green we're going to do in other lessons, okay, or you may have already done, and blue is previous learning that we've done at other times. So crucially we're going to cover how we set up fieldwork with questions and hypotheses, potential risks and risk assessments. We're going to look at methods and sampling, how we actually collect data. We're going to look at what we do when we present data, how we describe and analyse it. And we're going to look at how we conclude based on data and think about some problems and limitations. So we're going to use a fieldwork trip that I have done, but we're going to do it hypothetically. It's not actual fieldwork, it doesn't actually matter. We're going to look at Reading Station because you're probably all familiar with it, and we're going to look at the impact of the redevelopment in 2014. I use the word redevelopment and regeneration throughout this interchangeably. So they built and renovated or regenerated the station area, the area around it, and this is the south side, the north side of Caversham, and then the side you're probably more familiar with is over here. So if we were doing this piece of fieldwork, we would need a title, and we can have either a question or a hypothesis. So your first task is thinking about the difference. And if you don't know, the answers are on the next slide and you can write down your answer. But if you know, you can put it on the Google Doc. So the next thing we're going to look at is how we would answer, and we've chosen this question. To what extent did the regeneration of Reading Station have a positive impact on the surrounding area? So I've put in three things that we would have collected, and when I did this trip in real life, this is what we collected. So a land use map looking at the businesses that are there now compared to before the regeneration. Has it improved the number of businesses, the types, to give a positive economic impact? An emoji questionnaire where you present 4 emojis and ask customers how they feel about the station. It's a really good way to see if they're positive about it. Has it had a good social impact? An environmental quality index survey, which assesses whether the environment is aesthetically pleasing. Essentially, you have a tick box of 1 to 5 for things like litter, graffiti, how clean is it, how attractive does it look, and you give it scores so you can see which areas are attractive and which areas are not. So you can see, has it had a positive impact on the environment? So those are the three methods. And I've said to get there, this is what we're going to collect. We're going to walk to the school. So the first thing we do after we've done the title is think about the risks. So I put what risks might be associated with these activities, how can we reduce them? So what you need to do is have a little go at completing this box. When you've done that, there is some room, there's not some room, the next slide has some answers for you. It's not an exhaustive list, you might have some other ideas, but I'll give you a moment to have a go at that. Okay, I've skipped through the answers. So we're going to think about methods, sampling, and problems with methods. So here's our 3 methods. Some questions for you to think about. How would we do these in real life? Would we stop every person? Would we survey every spot around the station? So just have a think about how you would do each of these 3 things. Okay, essentially we're talking about sampling. Basis where if you had 100 people, you don't need to sample everyone's opinion to find out what people are thinking. You might just do a fifth or a tenth of people. For example, at the moment, to find out how many people have coronavirus, the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, they're testing 100, I think it's 100,000 people every week, and seeing how many of them have coronavirus, and then they multiply that to represent the population of the UK. So it's a sample. So there's three ways you can sample: random, systematic, and stratified. I'm going to let you have a read of those and come up with some positives and negatives, and you can fill in your table here. Okay, got some answers there if you need them. So we're now going to have to justify our methods and our approach. So we're going to take the emoji questionnaire. We want us to think about how does it help us to answer this question about the regeneration. Has it had a positive impact? And are there any problems with it? So I want you to have a think, and I want you to write some ideas in there. And when you're ready, sorry, that was in the justifying methods and limitations to methods on the sheet, on the Google Doc. And when you're ready, you can have a look at the next page for some ideas. Okay, say we collected this data. We're now going to look at some graphs that we created. We would have created these in lesson. So here's the graph for the emoji survey. So we now need to be able to describe it, perhaps conclude answering our question. Does it help us to answer a question? Are there any issues or further data that we may want? So again, I'm going to give you a moment to have a go underneath here, describing the data, drawing some conclusions, and perhaps evaluating the data. Trying not to get stuck where I was on the sheet. And again, you can now take a look at some of the ideas that I've put on the next page. It's not exhaustive. Other things could be right. It's just some ideas. So that's covered a large proportion of these ideas around fieldwork. Hopefully you feel more confident in each aspect, but if you don't, you can leave some comments when you submit the work on anything you'd like me to go, or your other teacher, whoever your teacher is, to go over in the next lesson.